If you followed my advice last week, it probably worked out pretty well for you. And if you didn't, we're going to give you more picks today. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Packers 101. And today, I'm going to be giving my Week 2 picks in terms of spreads and results for each game of NFL Week 2. So, just before I do that, real quick, let's look at last week's results. Picking games, I went 10-6, and then picking spreads, I went 9-7. So, not too bad for Week 1. Week 1 is usually full of unpredictability, and that was the case with the Bengals and the Browns. Man, I did not see that coming. The Browns defense just crushed Burrow all day, and Cincy, you got me doubting you. I was your biggest supporter, but now I'm not too sure. Another place where I was very wrong, Rams and Seahawks. I thought that if they had Cooper Kupp, maybe they'd be able to win that game, but even without him, that offense dominated the Seahawks. So great to see Matthew Stafford back, and I look forward to seeing what the Rams do next. And the last place where I was really wrong was the Washington Commanders. Now, I know they won, but they should have won by like 20 points, not 4. That game was way too close, way closer than it should have been. All right, with all that said, let's get into the games for week 2. I will be giving you my pick for the game as well as the current spread as of Wednesday. Up first, it's Thursday Night Football. We got the Minnesota Vikings heading on to take on the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Eagles are 6.5-point favorites. And this is a pretty easy one for me as a Packers fan. I'm going to pick the Eagles to win the game and to cover the 6.5 points. The Vikings severely disappointed against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Everyone said, oh, they're a lock to beat them. And the point spread was about 5, if I'm not mistaken. And the Buccaneers just said, we're not going away. And their offense played pretty well. Now, Minnesota's defense, I will give it credit. It played a lot better than I thought it would. I thought they would get exposed for like 30-plus points. But I think part of that could be attributed to Baker Mayfield at quarterback, getting adjusted to a new system. So I still think the Vikings defense has a lot of glaring holes. And I think they're going to be highlighted and exploited against Philadelphia. Now, Philadelphia had a weird game against the Patriots. It was very close for a while, and it easily could have gone the other direction, to be honest. But that's just going into New England to play Bill Belichick. He's one of the best defensive-minded coaches of all time. So he'll create a hard time for any quarterback coming in there. That being said, Vikings offense is good. It's not going to be enough to keep them in this game. So obviously, give me the Eagles to win the game and cover 6.5 points. Up next, we have the LA Chargers going into Tennessee to take on the Titans. And the Chargers are 3-point favorites once again. And I think they're the easy pick here. The Titans had a very weird game against the Saints, very defensive, and Ryan Tannehill did not look good. He threw 3 interceptions, no touchdowns, and it was just an ugly game all around from everybody. But that being said, there were some bright spots on the Titans. Obviously, Derrick Henry had a pretty good game rushing and receiving. And DeAndre Hopkins looked pretty good as a Titan. So I think that he'll make some progress. But what's become evidently clear is Tannehill's days are numbered. As for the Chargers, Justin Herbert had an amazing game against the Dolphins. It was just a duel, a classic duel between the Dolphins and the Chargers. But the Dolphins' defense was good. That's the only difference. The Dolphins' defense on that last series really got after Herbert, so credit to the Dolphins there. You proved me wrong on that one. Shut me up. But that being said, I see the Chargers bouncing back here. I see Brandon Staley hopefully having a better defensive game plan, and I see the Chargers winning the game and covering 3 points. Up next, we have the greatest team of all time, the Green Bay Packers, taking on the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the Packers are 1.5-point favorites, and before we get into everything, I just want to say I was right about Atlanta. They quietly built a really good roster, and that defense dominated Carolina. I understand that this game was close in the beginning, but the Falcons just ran away with it because of that defense. Offensively, the passing game was not really that great. Desmond Ridder, he looked scared to throw, to be honest. But the Falcons had a good running game. Whenever they gave Bijan Robinson touches, he looked great. They should have given him more, to be honest. I don't know why they didn't. And as for the Packers, they struggled out of the gate against Chicago, at least offensively. They had a really good first drive and then stalled after that. But then Aaron Jones got the ball, and what do you know? Good things happen. So Aaron Jones is clearly the X factor for this Packers offense, and Jordan Love, he looked pretty good for his first start. I thought he looked very poised. I thought he had a lot of clean throws. Now there were some throws that were behind, some that were a little off target, but overall, I'd say very impressive performance for Love. And provided that the Packers have Christian Watson back, I think that they're going to make easy work of that Atlanta defense. Even though it is improved, I don't think that they're ready for the Packers running game. So I'm going to take the Packers to win here and cover the 1.5 points. Up next, we got the Indianapolis Colts heading on down to Houston to take on the Texans. And this is an even game, no spread. So it's just a straight pick. And I think that this is extremely disrespectful to Indy. After they put up a pretty good performance against Jacksonville, Anthony Richardson, he looked pretty solid. So the Texans, obviously, they got CJ Stroud at quarterback. I like Dameon Pierce at running back. The O-line, definitely questionable. And the defense is not so good. We can clearly see that Houston is in a rebuilding phase. They are not putting up any good competition at the moment. So I think this is a very easy one. Not too much to break down. Take the Indianapolis Colts. They're going to win this game. I'm 99.999% sure. And if they lose this week, I'm going to look real stupid. Up next, we got the Seattle Seahawks heading down to Ford Field to take on the Detroit Lions. Now, the Detroit Lions are 4.5 point favorites, and the Seahawks really disappointed last Sunday. They looked awful against the Rams. Matthew Stafford ate that defense up for breakfast. It was not pretty. Offensively, the Seahawks stalled most of their drives. I mean, Geno had the nice throw to DK for the touchdown. But outside of that, not too much to be impressed by the Seahawks offense. Meanwhile, the Rams, even without Cooper Kupp, they put up a great performance. Cam Akers, I said that I didn't like the Rams running game. He shut me up. He ran the ball great. So I think that Detroit, coming off a big win against Kansas City, even though they didn't play that great, I think that's going to be a huge momentum booster for them. So I see them easily beating the Seahawks here in week 2, and I think they'll easily cover the 4.5 points. Up next, we got the Chicago Bears heading on down to Tampa to take on the Buccaneers. And the Buccaneers are 2 point favorites. And Chicago, you disappointed all your fans. They were talking so much trash in the offseason, and you come out and lay an absolute egg. How does it feel? Sorry, a little frustration as a Packers fan. But yeah, I don't have that much faith in the Chicago offense. I definitely don't have faith in that defense. And Tampa Bay, even though people argue that they were going to be bad this year, they actually looked pretty good against the Vikings. They played a pretty complete game. I think the Tampa defense is still strong when it's at its fullest. And I definitely see them beating the Bears here. And I think it'll be by at least 3 points. So give me the Buccaneers, and obviously they'll cover the 2.5 points as well. Up next, we got the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't do that very well. Sorry for trying that. Against the Buffalo Bills. And the Buffalo Bills are 8.5 point favorites. And the Bills definitely disappointed on Monday Night Football. Even after the tragic injury of Aaron Rodgers going down, the Jets still beat the Bills. Josh Allen threw 3 interceptions, also fumbled the ball, 4 turnovers total. And the Jets defense just dominated the Bills. And this has kind of been a thing with Josh Allen now for the past year and a half. He's just made a lot of clumsy mistakes, turnovers, fumbles. He very much does remind me of Brett Favre. I hate to say. He's a gunslinger. Sure, he'll make some great plays, but he'll make just as many bad ones as good ones. So the Bills really got to reevaluate where they're at with Josh Allen. And the Raiders, they didn't play too bad. They won off a game-ending touchdown to Jacoby Myers. He had a great game. He was the number 1 wide receiver yesterday. Caught 2 touchdowns. So Jacoby Myers looks like it was a very good pickup for the Raiders. And obviously they got Devontae Adams as well. So I think the Bills will win this one. But I don't think they're going to cover 8.5 points. I could see the Raiders keeping this close. So I will take the Bills to win the game, but the Raiders will cover plus 8.5. Up next, we got the Kansas City Chiefs heading on down to Jacksonville to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Jaguars, psych, they're not favored. The Chiefs are favored by 3.5 points. And this is a real tough one. See, obviously, if Kelce isn't playing, I think the Jaguars win this one all day. Detroit made them look silly the other day on the opening game, Thursday Night Football. So the Chiefs frankly, they got embarrassed by the Lions. And the Jaguars, they had a pretty good game against the Colts. It was actually an exciting one. The Jaguars offense just has a lot of weapons. Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley, it was nice to see him back. I'm glad that Calvin Ridley finally got unsuspended. Or he didn't get unsuspended. He finished out his suspension. And he looks stronger than ever. So good for Calvin Ridley. Travis Etienne, really good running back. Evan Ingram, solid tight end. Jaguars got a good roster over there, and the Jaguars' young players on defense, Trayvon Walker, they're all making good plays. So the Jaguars are a very solid team, and I think the Chiefs are going to struggle a little bit this year. So I'm actually going to, in a surprising upset, pick the Jacksonville Jaguars to win the game, and obviously with 3.5 points, they'll cover the spread. Up next, we got the Baltimore Ravens heading on down to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals, and the Bengals are 3.5 point favorites. Now, Cincinnati, what the hell happened against Cleveland? I was so sure that you were going to go in there and break the trend of you always losing to them in Cleveland and you always having terrible week ones, but you didn't do it. You made me look stupid. You happy now? But yeah, the Ravens too. Even though they won 9-25, they didn't look that impressive against the Texans. I mean, any victory against the Texans really isn't going to look that impressive. But the Ravens struggled a little bit during that game. So I'm kind of torn here. Both of these teams, even though the Ravens won, had somewhat disappointing week ones. But I think that the Bengals, I think that O line is in some serious trouble because I know the Browns pass rush is good. It shouldn't be as good as it was against the Bengals last Sunday. So I am going to pick another upset here. I think the Ravens are winning this one, and obviously with 3 points, 3.5 points, they'll cover. But Cincy, I have faith that you'll figure it out at some point in this season, but I don't think you can do it right now. I just don't. I will give Cincinnati credit. The defense played absolutely phenomenal against Cleveland. Going up against Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, Deshaun Watson, they got weapons there, so the Cincinnati defense definitely kept them in the game for as long as they could. But I think the Ravens defense is pretty good too, so I don't see why they wouldn't have the same result if nothing changes on the Bengals offensively. Up next, we got the New York Giants taking on the Arizona Cardinals. Now the Giants are 5.5 point favorites, and Cardinals, how did you stay in that game? I mean, that game was way closer than it should have been against Washington. That was one that I was definitely wrong about that I did not foresee coming. So you kept that game close. Good for you with that roster. Giants. Man, you disappointed me. I picked you guys to beat the Cowboys, and you lost 40-0 to Mike McCarthy. Yes, I understand. They have a good defense. They got Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs, DeMarcus Lawrence, and they're coached by Dan Quinn. So the Cowboys' defense is definitely good. I don't think it's as good as it's being played, as it's being portrayed in the media right now. But that being said, the Giants roster is still decent. Yes, they overpaid Daniel Jones. I've seen so many jokes about that. But I do think the Giants will win this one pretty handily, and they'll bounce back somewhat. So give me the Giants to win this game and cover 5.5 points. Up next, we got the San Francisco 49ers heading on in to take their neighbors, the LA Rams. Now, the Niners are 8 point favorites here, and my God, the 49ers absolutely destroyed the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, 49ers, I think that you're the favorites to win the NFC right now, if I'm being honest, even over Philly. Brock Purdy has definitely proved that he's not just Mr. Irrelevant. He is the best quarterback that San Francisco has had in a long time. I really believe that. And that offense with Debo Samuel, I know he's kind of taken a back seat lately, but he's still really good. Brandon Ayuk had a great game. Christian McCaffrey had a great game. And that defense just killed Kenny Pickett. I thought that the Steelers' offense would show some potential against the Niners, but nope, they were crushed. Absolutely crushed. Now, they are going on to take an opponent, the LA Rams, who had a pretty good showing against Seattle the other day. I think that the Rams put up a really good fight and they crushed the Seahawks. So I do think that the Rams' miracle run is going to end here. I do think that the Niners are going to destroy them. So I will take the 49ers will win this game and they will cover 8 points. And I'm pretty confident in saying that. Up next, we got the New York Jets going on down to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. And unfortunately, because of what happened to Aaron Rodgers, the Cowboys are 9 point favorites. It's really just such a shame that Rodgers got hurt. It's bad for everybody. It's bad for football. It's bad for Jets fans. I can't even begin to imagine how Jets fans feel after all that hype that was around Aaron Rodgers coming to the New York Jets, and for it to be over in 4 plays, it's just a tragedy. Nobody wins here. So I would have loved to see Rodgers with the Jets go in and take on one of the teams he owns, the Dallas Cowboys, but unfortunately we won't get to see that. That being said, I do think the Jets defense can keep them in this game, much like they did against the Buffalo Bills, And the Cowboys offense, even though they won 40-0, it really didn't look that good. The Cowboys won that game because of their defense, and they dominated it against the Giants because of their defense. So I think that the Cowboys will win the game, but with a 9-point spread, I would honestly take the Jets to cover that because that's a lot of points. I don't think there's going to be too many scored in this game, if I'm honest with you. Up next, we got the Washington Commanders going into Denver to take on the Broncos. And the Broncos are 3.5-point favorites. And I knew it, Denver. I knew that it was a mistake to take you, and I changed my mind and I didn't do it. So I'm very happy I made that decision. You deserve to lose. Not really, but Denver, you just strike me as a team that doesn't know how to win. You can't get over that. You can't get over your Achilles heel, which is known as the number 16. So as hard as I'm being on you, you have a good roster. I think that Sean Payton will get this group more on track for week 2 than he did for week 1. And Washington had a disappointing performance against the Arizona Cardinals. So I'm not going to go too much into this one. I'm just going to say I think the Broncos win this game and they'll cover 3.5 points. Up next, Sunday Night Football, which I think this is going to be a really good game. So keep your eye on out for it. We got the Miami Dolphins heading on down to New England to take on the Patriots. Now, the Dolphins are 3-point favorites, and congratulations, Miami. You beat the LA Chargers, and you beat them quite convincingly. That game was a pure shootout, and I think that Miami's offense, just like it did last year, has potential to be the best in the league. I think Tua, in the short and intermediate game, he's phenomenal. I think that with Tyreek and Waddle as weapons, he can have a very efficient offense down there with his skill set. Now, my only concern with Miami is, as I've stated in previous videos, is Tua's health. If he can stay healthy, I could see this offense going astronomical places. Now, the Patriots, they have a really good defense, and they actually played a pretty good game against the Philadelphia Eagles. It was much closer than I thought it would be. And if a player or two just went different, I think that there's a real good chance that the Patriots could have beaten the Eagles on Sunday. But that being said, I don't think that the Patriots can stop Miami's offense. So I'm going to say that Miami is going to have a really good year, and I think that they're going to beat the Patriots and in New England, and they're going to cover 3 points. So that's my pick there. Up next, Monday Night Football doubleheader. We got the New Orleans Saints heading on down to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Rivalry game, and the Saints, not the Panthers, are 3-point favorites. So in this game, I think the Saints kind of underperformed week 1 against the Tennessee Titans. They should have won by a lot more. The Titans roster is not that good. Yes, I understand they have DeAndre Hopkins and Derrick Henry. That's really it. There's nobody else in that offense that I'm really scared of. Quarterback Ryan Tannehill has shown now that he's not the guy. But Tennessee insists on rolling with him, so we'll see how long it takes for Will Levis to get in there. And the Titans defense did pretty good against the Saints, if I'm honest. Way better than I thought they would. So I think this game will be close. I think the Panthers, though, are pretty weak on offense. They don't have a lot of weapons. I was excited for Adam Thielen. I thought maybe he'd do something week 1. Didn't happen. So I don't think that the Panthers offense is capable of winning this game. I think that the Panthers defense has some good players. Brian Burns, I think he's great. But J.C. Horn is out now, so I don't have any faith in the Panthers keeping up with the Saints. So I'm going to take the Saints to win this one, and obviously they'll cover the 3 points as well. Last game of the week, you got the Cleveland Browns heading on down to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Browns are 2.5-point favorites in this game, and Cleveland, you really surprised me week 1. Jesus Christ, you destroyed the Bengals. It was not even close. Your defensive line, maybe the best in the league. I mean, Zadarius Smith, he's great. Pair him up with Myles Garrett. There's definitely a lot of talent over there. JOK at linebacker, Denzel Ward at corner. Cleveland's defense is loaded. And offensively, they got Nick Chubb. He's pretty good. Deshaun Watson, even though I'm not a fan, he still has talent in him. I have to admit it. And Amari Cooper at wide receiver 1, he's great. And Elijah Moore, the new trade from the New York Jets, he had a great game as well. So I definitely see Cleveland being a good team this year. I hate to say it. And Pittsburgh really disappointed week 1. I do think that Pittsburgh will be a decent team. But given what I saw week 1, I can't in good conscience pick Pittsburgh to ever win this game. So I got to go with the Cleveland Browns, and I think they're going to easily cover the 2.5 points. And I see that defensive line dominating the Pittsburgh Steelers. Anyway, those are my predictions for week 2. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Feel free to comment your own predictions for week 2 in the comments below. And I hope you have a good day. See you next time.